Good day, viewers. Welcome back to the Preaching Humanist with David Oliverio. That is I. I want to discuss a comment that Christian preachers have used for many years. I used to use it myself as a young preacher, that there is a God-shaped hole and vacuum in all human beings. I'm going to take it from an article written by a pastor not too long ago. Here's the article. Is something missing in your life? Are you searching, but you don't know what it is that you're searching for? Something is probably missing, and you probably don't even know what it is. I believe, the author says, now notice he says he believes. He doesn't actually know, but he says, I believe that there is a missing part in our hearts. Now, that is extremely testable. As I say all the time, when pastors and Christian preachers and all believers make these supernatural claims, these are very testable. So he's claiming that we all have this empty spot in our hearts and only God can fill these. So let's go on with the article. It's a God-shaped vacuum, if you will, that can only be filled by God. Of course, the Christian God. These are some serious claims here. You can try and fill that void with other things such as money, love, sex, education, etc. But if that empty spot in your heart, now first of all, the heart pumps blood. We do understand that. That's what the heart does. I never understood where they talked about Jesus in my heart. It pumps blood, okay? But if that empty spot in your heart was created by the Lord, nothing at all you do in an attempt to fill it will end up being successful. Wow, these are some pretty strong statements and very testable. That is unless, and here's the answer, of course. It reminds me of a song, by the way, back in my preaching years. Jesus is the answer for the world today. Above him, there's no other. Jesus is the only way. And we used to teach and preach that there's a hole in the heart of man. The only way to fulfill that longing in our soul was a relationship with God. This is the Christian message. The author goes on and says, that is unless you let the God of the Bible fill that void that he alone created in you. Serious claims here. Now, where did this idea come from that this particular pastor is preaching here in this article? Where did I get the idea years ago as a young preacher to talk about this God-shaped hole in all of humanity? Well, it came from a particular writing from Blaise Pascal, who was a 17th century mathematician, physicist, Christian apologist, author, and yes, a very intelligent scientist. Now, here's what Pascal, who is known for Pascal's wager, most of us are familiar with that. This is part of his article or his book released in 1662, a long time ago. Here it is, quote, what else does this craving and this helplessness, implying that humans have this craving and we're helpless, proclaim but that there was once in man true happiness. Now, I know what he's implying because I kind of know the book, the Bible. It's been a long time. I'm a little rusty. He's implying the book of Genesis, chapter 2, 3, and 4, that Adam and Eve walked in the garden in the cool of the day with God, right? They had fellowship with God through the sin of, especially Eve, the woman, and Adam. It broke the relationship with God and man. Now there's an empty void in humanity, and the only way for that to be filled is to have a relationship with Jesus or become a Christian. That's where this concept comes from. So Pascal goes on to say, of which all that now remains is the empty print and trace. This human beings try in vain to fill with everything around him. Oh, my goodness. Wow. Seeking in things that are not there to help. Human beings, cannot, this is testable, cannot find in those that are, though no one can help. Since this infinite abyss, wow, an infinite abyss, can be filled only with an infinite, immutable object, in other words, by, of course, God himself. There's the Christian perspective, and the implication is made that you cannot find meaning and happiness. And we have these big, gigantic holes in our heart, and only Jesus can satisfy the soul. So very testable and very easily refutable, because most of us have filled these holes with other things. And we're going to discuss that in the next episode about living a fulfilled, happy life without any God belief. So let me finish up on this article, present-day article, from this particular pastor written back in 2016. There is, wow, how does he know this? There is a God-shaped vacuum or hole in the heart of every single human being, which cannot be filled by any creative thing. Well, actually, that's wrong, because it can be filled, but only by the God, the Creator God, the Lord Jesus Christ, through a relationship with Jesus Christ. So these articles really drive me up the wall, and I like to read them, I like to refute them, and as I tell Christians all the time, you don't need to believe in a God to have a fulfilled, happy life. As you can see, here's the end of the article. As you can see, when God created humans, he doesn't know that he believes it. He has to give some evidence there. He wanted them to look around for him and to search for him. He created this hole. So God made this hole in humanity that can be filled by none other than God himself. The God-shaped hole was created by God for us to look for him. So here we have the Christian message. God, the Christian God, placed a hole in humanity so that we would long and search for God. Now, Islam has a very similar belief system in that. Now, theirs is you have an internal moral compass. I agree there. We are social primates. We have internal moral compasses, reciprocal altruism, and different reasons we have this compassion for others, for group survival and cohesion and so forth. We understand that. But Islam goes a little bit further, and they say that Allah places this internal moral compass in all human beings so that you will search for Allah. Doesn't make any sense to me as an atheist, as a secular humanist, who's someone who attempts to use science as the greatest arbiter of truth to know what is truth and false. So I figured out, as a human being, we use science to understand this, that we are social, we have morality, which does not draw me to Allah, which does not draw me to God. In fact, it works the opposite. I can figure out in most people that we have this internal moral compass, and that would imply I don't need a God to fill it. That would draw me away from God belief. The same principle here with Christianity. God puts a hole in humanity. So my question is, what happened to free will? God places a hole in you so that you will have to come and to seek him. And if you choose not to follow him and fill that void with other things, which we do, it's called reality, then you will be cast into the lake of fire and punished forever. It doesn't make any sense. What happened to free will? So that's the Christian message. I'm going to get into part 2 quickly here. We will discuss living fulfilled, happy lives. And if there are voids, we can fill it with things of naturalism, of this natural world, and live good, happy lives without belief in a God. Thanks for watching The Preaching Humanist. Have a wonderful day.